Hello, my lovely spooky friends. Your girl's back at it. So, for October, I promised you guys all that I would start doing some, how do I put this? Top list of my personal favorite, not only just horror films, but also I plan on doing some urban legends and some other stuff for you guys. But today's video, what I'm going to do for you guys is my top 5 sequels that are so bad, they're good. Now, remember everybody that I don't have editing software, so unfortunately my cell phone is all that I have to do this with. So I'm not going to have any kind of flashy, shots of the, films or anything like that. But let's go ahead and start kicking it off with number 5. My number 5 pick for such bad sequels that they're good is Book of Shadows, The Blair Witch 2. Now, if any of you are old enough like me to remember The Blair Witch, it was quite a phenomenon when it came out. It was one of those films that was just, the way that it was marketed, you believed that it was a true story, that these people really were missing. Well, this one kind of flips it on its head. This sequel, basically they say it was all just a story. But that's where the fun just begins, because this group of kids decide to actually go out to where the forest is, where the Blair Witch lives, right? Well, as you can guess by the fact that it's a horror film, things start to get a little crazy. Now, if you want to check out that film, I'm sure that you can find it on such things like Amazon or Netflix, or whatever streaming site you want to find that on. Most of these films are not brand new films. So, I don't even think a few of them are in the last 10 years. So keep that in mind, guys. I'm doing what I view as, the best sequels that were so bad they're good. And I personally view that this one's good because it does take the idea of that they made that first one into a true story film, right? Well, this one doesn't do that for you. But by the end of it, if you guys go and watch it, I promise you won't regret that it's a different film than most horror films you see nowadays. So go enjoy that. Our number 4 pick for this list is The Fly 2. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have probably seen The Fly. If not, please go check out that cult classic. It is one hell of a body horror mutation slash just mind trip. The man literally tries to create a teleportation machine. I'm sorry about my stuttering. That is going to teleport from one pod to the other. Now, during his experiment, instead of giving where he gave more testing, he did it on himself. So by the end of the film, you can guess craziness happens because after that first transport in the telepods, he's fused with fly DNA. So if you haven't seen that film, I'm not going to spoil anything more for you. That's just enough for you to actually enjoy the film, trust me. Go check it out. There is a sequel, like I just said, to it, with some even crazier stuff, and they get more into a psychological place with it when you deal with this main character. I'm not going to spoil anything for you if you haven't seen the film. If you have, it is his son. When she was pregnant at the end of it, like spoilers, she gives birth in the first one. And it is their son's story for the sequel. It's not done in an amazing way that it's cinematography like, oh my goodness. It's really kind of nice to see where the story went with it. And it's also more of one that has to do with what would you do if you were in this situation type thing. So go check out that one. Number 3 pick. I am a very big Crow fan. The movie The Crow with Brandon Lee. A lot of people hate the sequels afterwards, but I personally love City of Angels. It is one of my favorites. There is one other one, but I didn't put that on this list because City of Angels to me has more of a story arc than the later ones. It is about a man named Alex. Him and his son are murdered, and he is brought back by the Crow and possesses the Crow powers, and now he has the right to avenge him and his son's death. Now, unlike the later ones where a lot of them tend to have where the person deserves what they're getting to them to a degree. I mean, there's still an innocent party that's usually being avenged if you watch the later ones. But with this one, it was both were very innocent. watch the film if you want to understand what I'm talking about, but they bring Sarah back from the first one, the little girl. So you get to see what happens to Sarah after Eric and Shelley have passed away. And this is a few years later. She's a grown adult. And not only is her character kind of a little badass, but in general, the feel of the film is very, very reminiscing of the first one. It's still that nitty-gritty city grime, grit, and just harsh tones. It's gloriously like close to the original. So for that aspect, I have to say it's the best Crow sequel of all times for me. Again, all these are my just opinion, my own opinion. You can disagree with me, and that's fine. But if you do like horror films, try checking out a few of these if you haven't seen them. Our number 2 selection for our top 5 of the sequels is Urban Legends Final Cut. Now, if you've seen the original Urban Legend movie, it was a very different play on horror films of the time. It was where this killer was using urban legends to kill with. But in this one, it's a little different because they're film students. And during this, one of the students decides that she's going to make her final project about a serial killer that kills through urban legends after reading a story about a college that got shut down. And yes, people, it is the college from the first one. So she starts directing her film, and through her film, she starts realizing that her friends are dropping off. They're all on her crew list like flies. They're getting murdered. So she has to figure out not only who the killer is, but keep herself alive at the same time. So it's definitely a cool little sequel. I didn't like the next sequel after that, where I think it was called Bloody Mary Urban Legends. Don't get me wrong, I love supernatural stuff, as you all can guess, but when you take something that was meant to be a physical person doing serial killing and then turn it into a supernatural being that actually can do it, it kind of throws off your entire feel of your previous films. So for me, Final Cut is just that, niche pin. And our last but not least, best top 5 of the 5, number 1, Hellraiser Bloodline. Now, the reason for this, and a lot of people really hate a lot of the Hellraiser sequels, is because Bloodline explains a lot of the backstory. If you want to understand the box, Pinhead, watch Bloodlines. Okay? It explains so many characters. It does introduce new ones. And it does kind of go crazy towards the end because it shoves it super far into the future. But at the same time, if you're dealing with a hell dimension being, it might take you a while to defeat it. So that's my personal favorite of all the sequels that I've seen that were so bad they were good. Now, why I say this about these films is not all of them have the best acting in a lot of them. Not all of them have the best directing or quality of film production is the best word for it. Not all of them got as big of a budget as other films would have, especially some of the later sequels. A lot of the ones I enjoy tend to be more story-derived and explaining the first couple of movies. So keep that in mind when you go to watch these films. But I just wanted to let you all know that is my top 5 of the sequels that are so bad they're good. I love you all, my babies. See you later. Bye.